Well, whenever I hear that music, I feel like I'm a DJ coming on the air to play music. My name is George Puckett, and I am the author of a number of books on Mexico and the publisher of this podcast. My interest in Mexico goes back a number of years. It's really hard to know how many. However, it intensified about 20 years ago when my wife and I retired to an area south of Ensenada, Baja California. After 7 years, we had to return to the U.S. because our oldest son was involved in an automobile accident and rendered quadriplegic. We now live in Tucson, Arizona, and I guess I left my heart in Ensenada. I've written and edited a number of books about Mexico. The first was biological or biographical in nature, and the main topic was our 7-year adventure in Mexico. The title of the book is Baja Diaries, Chronicles of a Paradise Lost. And leaving Mexico was like losing paradise. It was written in the pre-Kindle years and later made available on Kindle. That particular book is not the topic of the day. Instead, my book talk is about one of my bestsellers, Become an Expatriate, Retire to Sonora, Mexico. Part of the reason this book became so popular is curiosity and a desire on the part of many Americans and Canadians to find a suitable retirement area in Mexico. There are actually 4 communities in the state of Sonora suitable for retirees. Sonora is a northern state in Mexico, and it borders with Arizona. The 4 retirement communities are San Carlos, Kino Bay, Alamos, and Rocky Point. All of these communities are located on the Sea of Cortez with the exception of Alamos. Consequently, all of them are good areas for fishing and scuba diving in the winter months. Part of the appeal is the fact that only one of these communities comes close to being a mega resort area. They're more laid back, and that community would be Rocky Point, also known as Puerto Penasco. Rocky Point has the distinction of being the closest Sonoran community suitable for retirees, especially if you don't wish to be isolated from other Americans. One could drive from Phoenix or Tucson, Arizona, spend the day in Rocky Point, and return home on the same day, that night. It's only about a 2.5-hour drive from either of those 2 Arizona cities. Rocky Point is also referred to as Arizona's beach. Rocky Point has many reasonable properties for sale, especially condos. However, the prices may soon be rising and the properties may be scooped up. Why? Because if the plans materialize completely, Rocky Point may become a home port for cruise lines. Construction on the port is underway, and in the not-too-distant future, residents of Arizona will be able to drive the short distance to Rocky Point to board a cruise ship instead of driving to Los Angeles or San Diego. I will only say a few words about the other towns, otherwise I will be reciting the entire book. The other retirement areas in Sonora have their own appeal. Alamos is the only town not on the Sea of Cortez. I often refer to Alamos as the lost colonial city because it is so far from all of the other colonial silver mining towns in central Mexico. The colonial architecture is a part of the appeal of Alamos. It is also a good area for freshwater fishing and hunting. And in 2005, Alamos received the designation of Pueblo Mágico, or Magic City, from the Secretariat of Tourism in Mexico. This is a coveted designation for any city. Kino Bay is probably the community with the most reasonably priced housing and the smallest population. It's just 65 miles from the capital city of Hermosillo. The Seri Indians of ironwood carving fame live there. There's an offshore island there known as Tiburon Island, which was made a nature reserve in 1963. San Carlos is an ideal retirement location. It is located next to the city of Guaymas. If you can't find it in San Carlos, they say, then take the short drive, 10 or 15 minutes to Guaymas. It also has an international airport. For golfers, there's the 18-hole par 72 course at the San Carlos Country Club. There are 2 world-class marinas, and the fishing is great. Here's a few reviews from Amazon. First, this person says, I was happy to find this new book because I was recently looking for some information about moving to Mexico for my almost retired parents. They are completely technophobic, and I took on the role of the savvy researcher. The book is written in very clear and informational format, and it provides you with tons of tips and useful information like places to eat or drink, interesting things to see and do, population statistics, where to go to get insured. This is especially important for exotic countries. And many more important phone numbers to keep handy if you ever get stuck. The book saved me tons of time online looking for credible and up-to-date information, and as a big time value, I give this book the full 5 stars. Thank you. Review number 2. If anyone had asked me before I read this book if I would consider moving to Mexico, I would have emphatically said no. After reading this book, if I were to leave the USA, Mexico would be near the top of possibilities. There's a lot of useful information, and George Puckett obviously knows what he's talking about. He shares a lot of information you couldn't get in a travel book or even from a 2-week vacation in Sonora. If you're not thinking of moving there, you'll find this book a treasure trove of info about Sonora, Mexico. Well, I don't think it would give you more information than a 2-week vacation. If you read it before you go, you'll spend your time a little more wisely, I think. Here's review number 3. This review is from Become an Expatriate, Retired to Sonora, Mexico. Retired to San Carlos, Puerto Penasco, Rocky Point, and Kino Bay, and Alamos. Mexico has always been an attraction to me, says the reviewer. I have lived my whole life not far from the Mexican border and have been to Mexico numerous times. The author provides some serious advice and info, some of which I didn't even know, and this is the book to use if considering retiring to Mexico or simply visiting. Visiting it as a vacation spot and having a vacation home there. This is a fantastic resource. Well, that's it about the book. I have a link to the book in my show notes, which will be right below the video player, and links to anything else that I might have mentioned, and my email address. So if anybody wants to contact me, then you'll have all the opportunities to do so. I thank you for listening to this podcast, and we will have an interview coming up in the near future with some other interesting people. Thanks again, and have a good day.